At 10:17 on a Tuesday morning, Margaret Wilson was sitting at her kitchen table when the phone rang. She almost ignored it. The number wasn't familiar, but something about the call felt different when she answered. The man on the other end asked if he was speaking with Mrs. Wilson. Margaret said yes. He introduced himself as Officer Daniel Harris from the Internal Revenue Service. Margaret immediately sat up. The man explained that there had been a serious problem with her tax records. He told her that an audit had uncovered unpaid taxes dating back several years. Then, his tone changed. He told Margaret that a warrant for her arrest had already been prepared. Margaret was 72 years old. She had never been arrested in her life. She asked him what she was supposed to do. The man told her that there was only one way to stop the warrant. She needed to pay. Not next week, not tomorrow. Today itself. He gave her a number and instructed her to go to a nearby money transfer location. He warned her not to tell anyone. Not her daughter, not her bank, and not the police. He told her that she was dealing with a federal investigation and that talking to anyone else could make the situation worse. Margaret believed him. And somewhere, hundreds of miles away, someone was waiting for her to send the money. But the person waiting for that money wasn't the man who had called her. It was someone else. Someone whose job was to collect it. Someone who would never speak to Margaret. Someone who might never even know her name. This was not a single-person scam. It was a system built around fear, deception, and a simple idea. Convince someone that the government is coming for them, and make them desperate enough to pay. The real case that investigators eventually uncovered would involve hundreds of victims across the United States and Canada. More than 500 people would be caught in the scheme, and nearly $600,000 would change hands. This is the story of how an IRS impersonation scam worked, and the people who helped turn terrified phone calls into real money. Margaret isn't a specific person named in court records. She stands in for the more than 500 victims described in federal filings out of Connecticut. And everything that happens to her in this story reflects what really happened to people across the US and Canada. To understand how her money actually moved once she sent it, we have to leave Margaret's kitchen table and go to Bristol, Connecticut. To two people who never once picked up a phone to threaten anyone, but who made the entire operation possible. Their names were Nancy Fry and Douglas Martin. Neither of them made the call Margaret received. Neither of them claimed to be an IRS officer or knew what she'd been told, or how frightened she was when she walked into that money transfer location. Their job started after that, the part of the scheme built to turn a wire transfer into cash someone could actually use. According to court records, in October 2015, Fry began receiving phone calls and text messages from people she'd never met, asking if she'd be willing to pick up money that came in through MoneyGram and Western Union and deposit it into specific bank accounts. She said yes. She was paid roughly $40 per transaction, which added up to around $500 a day. Fry then recruited Martin and several others to help her collect wired funds from locations across central Connecticut. Here's the part of this case worth slowing down on, because it explains why an operation like this can run for months without anyone involved fully reckoning with what they're part of. The scheme was built in layers, and each layer only had to understand its own small piece. The callers threatening Margaret never touched the money directly. The people collecting the money, like Fry and Martin, never spoke to a victim, and likely never heard a single one of those calls. From where Martin was standing, the job looked almost administrative show-up. Collect an envelope or a printed transfer slip. Hand it off. Get paid. Nothing about picking up a wire transfer at a counter looks like fraud. That distance is exactly what makes this structure so effective. It's much easier to participate in harming 500 people you'll never meet than it is to make even one of those calls yourself. And it's easier still to recruit someone into that kind of role, since the pitch never has to mention a victim by name. This is also, in part, why operations like this can grow so large. Fry wasn't hired through an interview or a job posting. She was recruited the same way a victim might be targeted through unsolicited calls and texts from people she'd never met, offering easy, fast money for what sounded like simple courier work. The recruitment pitch and the scam pitch shared the same basic shape: a stranger on the phone, offering something that felt urgent and easy, with very little time built in to think it over. Fry herself later told investigators she earned roughly $40 per pickup, enough to add up to real money within a matter of weeks. Between October 2015 and May 2016, Fry and the people working under her direction collected approximately $588,000 in wired funds from around 547 victims across the country. Martin's own involvement ran from roughly January to May of 2016, a few months, inside a scheme that had already been running for longer than that. Margaret's payment was one of hundreds moving through that pipeline. She never learned Martin's name. He never learned hers. That was, in a real sense, the point. The operation didn't last much longer after that. Investigators with the Treasury Inspector General for Tax Administration had begun looking into the scheme after a victim came forward in late 2015, describing multiple payments made to people claiming to represent the IRS. That single report was enough to start pulling on the thread, and by September 2016, agents arrested both Fry and Martin in Bristol. Court records also revealed something else. This wasn't either defendant's first brush with the law. Fry had a prior conviction for stealing more than $185,000 from her own father while serving as his court-appointed conservator. Martin, according to the Department of Justice, had more than 40 prior state convictions. Fry pleaded guilty to conspiracy to commit wire fraud in June 2017 and was later sentenced to 5 years in federal prison. Martin pleaded guilty to the same charge and, in November 2017, was sentenced by U.S. District Judge Vanessa L. Bryant to 41 months in federal prison, along with an order to pay $279,881.13 in restitution. There are a few things worth taking from this case. The first is that fear is the actual weapon, not the phone call itself. A calm, official-sounding voice threatening arrest is designed to short-circuit the normal instinct to slow down and verify, and it works precisely because most people have never been threatened with arrest before and don't have a rehearsed response ready. The second is that a real government agency will never demand immediate payment by wire transfer, gift card, or money order, and will never threaten immediate arrest over the phone during a first, unsolicited call. That single fact on its own would have ended Margaret's call in the first 30 seconds, before any fear had a real chance to take hold. The third is that being told to keep something secret from your own family is, by itself, one of the clearest warning signs available. Legitimate legal and financial matters do not require silence, and any caller who insists on it is asking you to remove the one safeguard most likely to expose the lie. If you or someone you love receives a call like this, hang up and call the IRS directly using the number on their official website, not one given to you by the caller. Never wire money, buy gift cards, or send cash to resolve an unexpected debt over the phone, regardless of how official the caller sounds or how urgent the deadline seems. And talk to your family about this kind of call before it ever happens, so that if it does, there's already a plan in place. And no scammer's warning about secrecy carries any real weight in the moment. Margaret, like the real victims behind this case, wasn't naive. She was a 72-year-old woman who had never been in trouble with the law, faced with a stranger telling her she was about to be arrested. Fear does that to good judgment. It doesn't erase it, it just narrows it, for exactly as long as someone needs it narrowed. Long enough for a decision to get made before doubt has time to catch up. The people on the other end of that system were counting on nothing more complicated than that. Thank you for watching. If you found this story informative, please like the video and subscribe for more real cases, investigations, and stories that can help you stay informed and protect yourself from scams.